Okay, so let's start by cutting the chipboard. And normally I have the chipboard already cut and prepped and ready to go, but I just wanted to show you how to do this, especially if you have the bigger Dali 550 cutter, because it's not real good for cutting small things. So what I'll do in something like this, where this is a larger folio, we are using larger pieces of chipboard in conjunction with smaller ones, what I'll do is I'll take that full sheet and I'll cut my smaller pieces off of it before I cut it down to its final size. So in this case, our spine pieces are going to be 1 inch by 10 inches. So I'm actually going to cut the 1 inch pieces off of this prior to doing anything else. And since the big piece needs to be 10 by 12, that will actually cut this one down to its finished size. Okay, so there is our large base piece. Now I'm going to take my 2 little 1 inch pieces and I'm going to cut those down to 10 inches. For my other piece, for my gatefold closure, I'm going to start by cutting that down to 10 inches. And then I'll cut it just cut it in half, so 6 and 6. Alright, so there's your chipboard. I am going to go ahead and prep this. And what I will do, let's start with our spine pieces. And let me find, there it is, the 1 inch, or I'm sorry, 1/2 inch score tape. I'm out of 1 inch score tape, which would make this really simple, but that's okay. Okay. I have to get out some score tape sheets for this other stuff, and I'll do that in just a second. And I figured it might be kind of helpful for you to see how I actually do the tape on these, because typically, like I said, by the time I start to record the tutorials, I've already done this piece. So, let me find my 2 pieces for the spine. So your spine pieces to wrap this are going to be 12 inches by 5 inches. Okay, we'll need 2 of those. And since we're leaving a little bit bigger wing, I guess, on the side of the spine pieces, just to give it a little extra stability, we're going to use a 1.5 inch. Did I do that right? No, they're too big. Oh, hold on. Yeah, they're supposed to be 4 inches, not 5 inches. I'm sorry. 12 by 4. I didn't even realize I did that. And I apologize. When I do most of my tutorials, when I'm planning them, I do actually sit and sketch out what it is that I'm doing. So I will literally kind of draw out how I'm going to do it, and then I'll estimate my measurements. And usually my measurements are right on, but apparently not today. So, okay. I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off of my score tape, maybe. So we're going to have 1.5 inches on each side of this, not 2 inches. Okay, so there's one. Put our other one in here. tape is hanging over just a little bit, so I am going to fold that over. Okay. Put away the 1.5" template. We will still need the 1 inch and our other 1 inch for when we do the cover. So with this, I'm going to get my 1/4 inch, and I'm not going to run it all the way across on the top, but I am going to do it all the way across down here on the bottom half, because we're going to end up trimming that, and there's no point in wasting that much more score tape. You can, of course, always do this taping after we've done the folding and kind of line it up that way. It's up to you. I'm going to fold and burnish. And fold and burnish. And we're going to go ahead and fold the other way as well. And that's where putting the tape on first makes it kind of tricky, because it does make it just a tad bit harder to burnish like this. But, you know, and if you think that's going to be too difficult, by all means, wait and do the tape after you've folded. Okay, we're going to cut out the triangle. On both of these. Okay. And then I'm going to get my backing off my tape. Grab my glue. I can get the pen out today. Okay. And I'm going to just run glue right there and in between my tape. Fold it up, over, and burnish it down. Okay, then I'm going to turn it over. I'm just going to burnish that down. Okay, we can set that one aside. This one I'm going to do the tape after I fold, but before I cut, because that does work a little bit easier. Half the time I forget to do either first, but that's okay. This way. Okay, so now I'm going to put my tape just across those score lines and then all the way across that bottom. And that's actually probably the easiest way to do it. Okay, I'm going to trim the triangle. Okay. All right. same thing for backing off our tape, run our glue, and fold. That down next to the cardstock. I'm going to set those aside. Actually, I'm going to move them completely out of the way because I'm going to get my craft mat back up here because I don't like to work directly on my table. There we go. Okay. So let me get some score tape sheets. It looks like I probably need to order some more again. All right. So I'm actually going to take my paper trimmer. I'm going to cut this down to 10 inches. I know Tammy puts it on there and then cuts it off. I have a very hard time doing that. I don't know why. That one's going to be 6. 10 again, and 6. And the reason I'm doing it that way is because I should be able to use these extra pieces to finish off the edge of that. So be careful when you do this. Once this stuff is down, it is down. There is no pulling it up and fixing it. There is no going back once you put it down. So I don't typically pull the entire back off. Pull it part way, get it lined up, and then like so, which is much easier in my opinion. Okay. It's the same thing even on this little bitty piece. Actually, I'm going to go up against that side. And then it just goes down flawlessly. Oh, not quite. Okay. I've got what, maybe an inch there, a little over an inch, less than an inch. Nope, an inch. Okay, so we are going to use one of these little scraps. It is just a tiny bit long, but that's okay. I'm just gonna trim that off, throw it away, and there's our 10 by 12 piece. We're gonna do our little 6 by 6. Actually, I'm gonna hold off on these for just a second because I want to test something before we actually wrap these, just in case. The last time I did gatefold with the new wrap method, I used an older tutorial of mine and was redoing it for somebody, for a friend that requested I make one for her. and it kind of skewed my measurements a little bit. So I'm going to hold on to these for just a minute. And this is why we're doing this together this way. I know I don't normally go through all of these steps with you guys, but we're going to do it that way this time. So and this is the same thing we had done before. And here's how we're going to do this. When I had done my large dinosaur folio, because that one was 12 inches high, and we had to attach the two pieces together to wrap our base piece. Okay, I had a little bit of an issue with cracking because of how tight it gets once this is layered up and then you're wrapping it the way we wrap it around that to wrap the did I do this totally wrong? I must have. Yeah, because these are okay. I'm just on a roll today. Apparently I cannot do basic math today because this is also incorrect. And any of you that have the Fiskars trimmer where it kind of cuts off and you can't really see that 6.5 inch, I just laid my ruler on there. Okay, so the base to wrap this is going to be 12 by 6.5, not 7.5. Let me change my notes really quickly because that's where I will type up the cut list for y'all. And if I don't change it on there, I will literally not remember this by the time I go to do this next. Or by the time I go to type that up. Anyway, the point I was getting to, I had a little bit of cracking with the way I had wrapped that because I used score tape to attach these together and then wrap the chipboard, and it's really not necessary. So what we're going to do, we're going to take our 1-inch templates. We're going to turn our base so that the 10-inch side is at the top. So you're going to have your 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. And I am going to pull back the big piece of backing on the big piece of score tape. Okay. We're going to go ahead and do this part just like we always do. Being mindful that you don't want to, of course, stick this down to your scoreboard. Okay. We're going to take our second piece and put it in here. Okay. And that's still wrong. How am I still wrong? Holy crap. What did I do? Did I cut this one down too much? I think I did. No, 6.5. Or was 7.5 correct? What the hell have I done? Okay, I've done something weird here, and I'm not even sure what. Okay, so what we're going to do, I think that really was supposed to be 7.5 because this clearly is not going to work the way I'm wanting it to. So, let's just double check my measurement here without sticking a ruler to the thing. So we're going to cut this one to 8. And I will fix the measurements on the cut guide. Okay, so to wrap our big piece, I started this and I screwed up the sizing on this. You should have two pieces that are 12-inch by 6 1/4 is what it needs to be. No, I'm sorry, 7 1/4. That's where I was off. Okay, so your midpoint's right here. And this is where I screwed this one up. So you want your two wrap pieces to be 12 inches high by 7 1/4. Okay. I screwed this up. I've got one too small, and I've got one small and I've got one large. That works just fine. It just means your seam on this isn't going to be centered up, which is totally fine. That's not going to matter. But they should be 12 inches by 7 1/4. So what you're going to do is you're going to line up with your 1-inch templates like you normally do. You're going to pull your squirt tape backing off of 1/2, put it down, put your other piece in, get your backing off. So let me grab that off really quickly. Okay. And what you're going to do is take that opposite side that has the exposed score tape, and you're going to push that side down. Okay. Pull my templates out. What you're going to have is 1/2 inch that it's not connected. And the reason we're going to do it that way is when I had done the dinosaur folio, which was 12 inches by 6 inches, and I had used score tape in this little overlap. What happened when I went to wrap it, and especially after I'd been opening, closing, attaching, etc., what happened was this tended to crack, which this one, it may not be as big of an issue because this time we're not doing this on the hinge because the spine, because the spine is also 10 inches, so I don't think it would be an issue. That one, the spine was 12 inches, so that overlap was getting moved a lot. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and fold this just like we normally do. Okay. And then we're going to wrap our edges kind of in up like around the side. We're not going to wrap like the entire side at once. We're going to do it just a little bit differently. So what I'm going to do is going to go ahead and cut out that corner, the square on the corner, just like we usually do, because that part doesn't affect what we're doing here. Alright, what we're going to do, as soon as I figure out where my score tape is, we're going to do these ends first. Nothing's weird there, it's a normal wrap. We're going to go ahead and do those ends first. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put my score tape down like I do. gonna grab the glue. I didn't put the pen in, so it's not gonna want to flow. Okay. All right, I'm gonna get my score tape backing off of the two ends here. Well, they're technically the sides. These are really the ends, the top and the bottom. Okay, and we're gonna do just like we always do. Run our our glue down along the spine, in the gap between the glue and in between the tape, and we're just gonna work this up over and down, just like normal. Okay. I didn't check my mitering on this, and this one's kind of funky, but it'll be okay. We'll make it work. Totally forgot about that. Probably is not my day to be doing this. That one's good. Okay. Let's do the other side now. Okay. And again, get the score tape backing off. Okay, so now, rather than try to wrap all of this at once and risk this cracking, we're going to wrap the two pieces that come inside first. Okay, so we're going to put our tape on here, just like normal. And you may have, I'll show you on here, you may have a slight difference, like if your paper got slightly crooked. You'll see how that's like sticking out just a tiny bit. It's going to get covered up. It's not going to matter. That all that means is just that when I was sticking that down, my paper shifted a tiny bit. It's not going to matter because we're wrapping this whole thing. It's fine. Okay. So get our backing off. We're just going to work that one little strip over and down, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and for this piece, you can go ahead and run a little bit of glue under that, but by the time this is all folded over, this isn't going to move. And chances are you're going to put something to mat the back of this, even if it's just a solid colored, sheet of cardstock. You're going to mat the back of this with something that I don't think we really need to attach that little flap down right there. We do, however, need to attach it on here. However, wrapping them independently takes that pressure off of there, so this isn't going to crack like my dinosaur one did. Which it didn't crack badly, which says a ton about artisan cardstock, I can't even tell you. But it did crack just a tiny bit. So we're going to go ahead and do our tape. Just like before. Okay, I'm going to pull my tape up. And the other thing too is, again, you're going to mat the inside of this too. So, we'll get all of our, flaps the fronts and the spines on here. you know, and yeah, you're gonna have this little overlap. It's not gonna matter because you're gonna mat over it. Okay, so again, with the glue, make sure you've got a decent amount right there where that does fold over. And we're just gonna work it up and over just like we've done with the other. And that time, I don't have any cracking. It goes over just seamlessly. Okay? We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. And then look at that. Your 10 by 12 base is wrapped. Okay? It pulls it all tightly enough along here. It doesn't matter that we don't have any adhesive under there. If you were really worried about it before you wrap, you could put adhesive under this little 1/2-inch strip. But honestly, it's not going to matter. It's not going to make any difference in the finished product. So I'm going to go ahead and drag in my spine pieces. We do need to miter these ever so slightly at the top, simply because you don't want it sticking up over the edge of your book. I mean, I cannot say enough good things about this easy wrap method that Tammy came up with. Honestly, probably one of my least favorite things about building albums was making the cover, just because I always ended up wasting a lot of paper. I ended up with, you know, crooked spots and, you know, where I didn't get, you know, a front and a back and a side lined up. So, you know, it just, I don't know, I always kind of struggled with that. It just irritated me. And this just goes together so seamlessly and so easily. I just love it. Okay, so for this, instead of 1/4 inch, we're going to use 3/8 inch score tape. And I've lost my bone holder. And remember, you don't want to, on the spine, you don't want to put it all the way up against the edge of the chipboard. You do want to leave a little bit of a gap because this will fold over, so you don't want it all the way up against that edge. Out of the 3/8. Hold on one second. Apparently not 3/8. Adding this to my next order. So I think this is my last one, and I usually have way more rolls than this on hand just to be on the safe side. Okay. So again, 3/8 score tape. I'm going to go ahead and prep both of them. If you watched my tutorial on my keepsake box, I talked about, you know, I like to, I don't know, I call it assembly line crafting, and that has come from either doing, you know, a whole bunch of the same thing, doing larger projects, you know, what have you. I mean, doing cards for card swaps. The very first card swap I ever did, there were 56 participants. I had to make like 56 cards plus a couple extra, and I just literally would go through and do all of one step. So like all of the tape on something, I would assemble all of one piece because I had some layered things on it, and it just makes it go much faster. That's just, you know, that's my method, it's my opinion. You know, you may do something differently that works for you, but that's what works for me. So okay, we're going to pull our score tape off one side only because we of course haven't built our front pieces yet. And then we're going to run glue between there, and just a little bit along that edge. What we're going to do, I'll line this up top to bottom, kind of hold it with my finger, roll my finger along the top there, and just run this off until it drops off the side of that chipboard on your spine, and then push it down. Okay, go ahead and do the other side. I'm going to get my backing off. Okay, I'm going to do our other side. Okay, and again, we'll burnish that down. Okay, so now we had set aside our chipboard for the front. What I'm going to do, just to double check our sizing here, I'm going to line this up the way it will end up going on once you wrap it, because you always end up with just a tiny bit that kind of hangs over. And what I'm going to do, just to make sure that I have sized this right, and this would be a good tip if you're designing your own album on gatefold and using this wrap method, just to test, or if you're doing any kind of different, you know, something a little bit different than what you would normally do. You know, there's always a way to kind of do a test run without wasting all your paper in your chipboard. Okay, so when this is closed, okay, so it does work for the 6 inches, so perfect. We can go ahead and get our tape on these and get them wrapped. I'm going to move that out of the way. Let's get our score tape on here. So again, these are 6 by 10. They are going to be the 2 gatefold pieces for the cover on our extra large folio. And believe me, if I can figure out how to do something with multiple pieces of chipboard and wrap it like this and make it go bigger than 12, I will do it. I don't know, I just think it's so fun. You know, when I first started doing albums and first started building my own covers, I did a lot of very small ones, which were fun, but, you know, I like trying to do something a little bit different every now and then, so. Okay, so to wrap our 2 front pieces, we need a piece that is 12 by 8. Okay, grab the scoreboard and our templates wherever I've lost those at. There they are. Okay, so just like we always do, I get the backing off my score tape. Just a touch hanging over, but that's okay. And we're going to line it up like so. There's one. And here's number 2. We're done with those. Move that out of the way. And then we're just going to go ahead and wrap these just like always. And then we'll get them attached to our base. apologize if you hear any weird background noises for the next, I don't know, several months probably when I'm recording, unless I'm doing it late at night. They are building a house one lot over from where ours is, and they're out there like with big equipment doing the foundation, digging out for the foundation right now. So I keep hearing like rumbling and stuff and feeling rumbling. I don't know if you'll hear it on the video, hopefully not, but just in case you're hearing something weird in the background, that's most likely what it is. The other thing you may kind of notice in the background right now for the next few months is going to be kind of a, not really a droning, but there's like a weird kind of, yeah, kind of a droning. And that's literally just the furnace because, or for the air conditioner, the compressor for the air conditioner. The compressor is right outside my window behind me here, and the, you know, whole interior HVAC unit is right on the other side of the wall across from me. So you might hear it occasionally, and I apologize. There's not a whole lot I can do about that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do our tape. Around both of these. Alright, so now I am just going to brush my tape down really quickly. Get the backing off. Maybe. If it wants to cooperate with me today. To check my corners, didn't I? I don't know why I have this mental block against it lately. I think I did that in my last project too. Okay. Our corners on this one before I That's much better. Oh my gosh. There are days, I'm telling you. Probably doesn't help. I had to be up and on a conference call like a full hour before I'm normally up and on the computer for work today. So, oh, for crying out loud, come on. Yeah, so my brain's just not functioning today. All right, so we've got those wrapped. We can attach them now to our base. So we're just going to do just like we did before. I'm going to get my backing off my tape. I'm going to run my glue. And line it up, and down it goes. Okay. Yeah, that's going to work just perfectly. Okay. And then apparently I only cut one of these too, so we'll fix that really quickly. So for, sorry about that, the piece that reinforces our hinges here, you need two pieces that are 6 inches by 9 7/8. Those are going to go down just over here and over here just to reinforce that. Typically I use score tape on this, so I will dig that out and get those down. But all you're going to do is just get your adhesive on there. Like I said, I typically use the score tape just because it just goes down with no bubbles and no, glue lines or anything like that. Not that you typically can see glue lines under the artisan cardstock, but so I'm going to get those prepped and get those down, get a little bit of organized here, and I will be back and we will work on our inside elements. All right, so let's work on the inside right. So we're going to start with our flap. Our flap is 9 3/4 by 6 1/8, and I don't know why I didn't write that on there. That's insane. And we are going to score this at 1 inch. For our waterfall, you're going to cut 5 pieces that are 7 5/8 by 5 1/8. We're going to score these at 1/2 inch. Something on this thing. there's going to be a closure for the waterfall, and this one is, I don't know why I don't have measurements on some of these. And I've lost my ruler somewhere here. Haha, lovely. Okay, so this is 1 3/4 by 7.5. We're going to score this at 1/2 inch, but we will test it before we actually glue it down to see if we want to shorten this a little bit. And then we have a belly band that's going to go underneath the flap, and that is 1.5 by 10 3/4. You're going to score that at 1/2 inch on each end. Normally I would go through and score everything, but we are going to do this a little bit differently. We are going to build this as we go. So let me move that belly band. So our waterfall is going to sit on top of our flap. So we're going to go ahead and fold and burnish. Okay. And because I like to work on my waterfalls upside down, so it's going to attach on this side and open out that way. Okay. But I like to work on my waterfalls upside down, so we are going to flip that around. Actually, I'm going to go through and get all of these folded and burnished. All right, so I'm going to get some glue on my first tab. And we're just going to line this up at the top, or what will be the top of our flap. Keeping in mind I do have it turned the wrong direction so that I can do that right there. And this is a nice big 5 by 7 waterfall. And again, this goes back to if you didn't watch my tutorial or anything for my Disney Park Day album that I did. We always end up with tons of PhotoPass pictures, especially Disney World, not nearly as many at Disneyland just because they don't seem to do them as much at Disneyland as they do at Disney World. Not sure why that is. But I always have tons of pictures, and I always end up printing off those PhotoPass in 5 by 7 because those are usually like the really good pictures from our trips. Okay, so we got that down. I'm just going to burnish over the top of this. We're going to turn our folio sideways. Try not to push anything off my desk on that side over there. And we are going to put this out to the edge of that right side of our gatefold. Okay. Just center it up because this is 10 inches. This is total 9 3/4. Okay. I still managed to knock something over. That's okay. And let's go ahead and do our belly band. So this is going to open up. We're going to center up our belly band right about here. And I'm actually going to hold off on this for right now and wait until I've matted this, and then I'm actually going to put it down on top of my matting. Okay, so for now I'm just going to clip it back here so that I don't forget about it. because otherwise I will totally forget about it. All right, so our closure. And again, if this is entirely optional, if you think it will stay down without the closure, you of course don't have to do that. So we cut that originally at 7.5. And I have no clue what I've done with my ruler. That is just, there it is, way over, out of the way. Okay. So I don't think this needs to be quite that long. I think I really only want this to be, about, we'll say 4.5 inches from our score mark. So really 5 inches. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get the glue on the bottom of this. Center it up on there. And I am going to grab a magnet. You could do a tie closure with this if you wanted to, but I am pretty much out of the seam binding that matches this collection because I used it on the box. So we will not be doing that with any kind of ribbon. And I have desperately need to clean out my ribbon storage because it's just an abject disaster and I literally can't find anything in it. So I'll be doing that at some point, but not right now. All right, so our magnet's there so we don't forget about it. Let's move over to the left inside. Okay, so next we're going to work on the pocket for the inside of the left flap. So the pocket base for this is going to be 5 inches by 11 3/4. You're going to score this at 3/4 of an inch and at 1 inch. Turn it all the way around. 3/4 of an inch, 1 inch, and then turn it so that the long side is down, and you're going to do the same thing again. 3/4 of an inch and 1 inch. Okay. The flap is going to be 4 inches by 9 3/4. You're going to score this at 3/4 of an inch. Man, I cannot score a straight line today. And 1 inch. Okay. For the pocket, we're going to fold and burnish on our inside score line. Just figure out for sure where we need to cut out of the bottom. Okay. So in this case, we're going to cut on the score line, the inside score line, and remove that corner. Same thing on the other side, on the inside score line, and remove the corner. Okay. And we can go ahead and fold. Well, maybe we can if this wants to cooperate with me today. Okay. And then you're just going to fold this over and make sure nothing's hanging out. So we want to miter this just a little bit. We still want to leave enough there that we can attach to build our pocket, but you don't want anything hanging off the side there, okay? Alright, so there's our pocket. The flap, we're just folding and folding. Like so. And then that's just going to sit right down over the top like that. That's going to attach to this inside. So you've got a couple of options here. We could cut another piece to put on the back of this, okay? That we could then attach to the back here, get this lined up and attach this over the back, and then you've got the completed pocket that you can just put in your book after you've decided what you're going to mat it with and so on and so forth. I think that's how we're going to do this because that might be a little bit easier. So to do that, and I'm going to give you a rough measurement again on this because you of course will want to measure for sure on your book to make sure you know you're not getting too far over one way or the other. So I need to go 5 3/4 high by 9 3/4 long. So that is not big enough. That little scrap is not. So let me find one that is. What's going on here? This blade is a brand new blade and it does not want to play nicely. Oh my gosh, seriously. I did just switch this out too, like literally yesterday. Weird, I'm gonna have to dig out another one. This one came right out of the package and is just not. Weird. Okay, we'll try it one more time and then we'll deal with that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tack down the corners of my pocket. And I know typically if you've watched any of my other tutorials, if I'm doing pockets like this, I usually just build them right on the base. The reason we're not doing that is in part because out of the things that I screw up and have to go off camera and tear apart and redo so that I can re-record how I do it, most often are pockets. Don't ask me why. I have like this mental block with them. You know, it's the thing that I probably screw up the most unless I do it like this. So this, you know, helps us make sure our pocket is constructed correctly and that we're going to be able to get it on in the book the way we want it without it being weird, I guess, for lack of a better word. Okay. So we're going to line this up, and I did cut it just a hair shorter and a hair narrower than what we want, just so that nothing ends up hanging out over the back. Okay. And then this piece, you can just slide right down on here like so. Sure it's lined up on the front, and then we can push it down. Okay, so now we have our completed little pocket. Once again, we can do this with a tie closure. You can do this with magnets. I will leave that up to you. But it's going to go down right here. We're just going to center it up right there. I'm not going to tack this or glue this down just yet because I may want to take some scrap strips, if I can talk, and put under this, because you do have a little bit of a border on the sides and a tiny bit on the top and bottom. So I may end up doing that. So I'm just going to set this piece aside for now, and we're going to work on our center. So for the center. Okay, so let's work on the center part of our base. So on this side, we're going to do the photo wallet that I did for the National Scrapbook Day project. If you saw that, you'll know what I'm talking about. We're going to make it a little bit taller. We're going to do some different size mats in it than what we had done previously. So to start that, for the base, you need a piece of cardstock that is 9 3/4 by 12. You're going to score this at 4 inches, 4 3/8, whoops, 8 3/4, and then 9 1/8. Okay. For the flaps, you have 5 that are 4 1/8 by 6 5/8. You're going to score these at 1/2 inch on the 6 5/8 side. And you should be able to cut the mats, the flaps for this from scraps from everything that you cut so far. And if you're at this point without having downloaded the cut file or the cut list and pre-cut everything, I always recommend that you do that, because if I give a weird measurement in the video, it'll be correct on the cut list. I try to put like some sort of little pop-up message or something down here when that happens, but occasionally something will sneak through. So, all right, and then you're going to do 5 mats that are 4 1/8 by 4 1/4, and with the 4 1/4 inch side at the top, you're going to score it at 1/2 inch. Okay, so let's go ahead and fold and burnish all of this, and then we'll get it assembled. I'll grab my clips, or some of my clips anyway. All right, so we are just going to fold and burnish. Okay, so if you did not see that, the National Scrapbook Day video, to assemble these flaps, you're going to line them up. You're going to use your mat, your table, whatever you're working on, to help line everything up. And then you're just going to come in here, assuming your glue has not stopped up on you, because you forgot to put the pin in it, because that's what I keep doing. And you're just going to get your glue in here. Okay. Once you've done that, you're going to pinch these together and clip. And then you're going to set this aside for just a minute so it can dry. While that one's drying, you'll do the same exact thing with the bigger one. So again, you're just going to fan this out. And use your table again to just tap that down so that you've got your bottoms perfectly aligned. Hold it on the sides, and then we're going to do the exact same thing with the glue. Okay. And that whole thing will fold down just like that. And then I'm going to clip it so that it can dry. Okay. We're going to grab our wallet. I'm going to fold on the inside score line. So you've got 2 score lines here, 2 here. You want the inside line because that's the one we're going to use to line these up when we put them in the book. Now, you need to decide, because one side is shorter than the other, which side you want to be your closure. Okay, or which side you want your closure to be on. The short one is your closure. So you just need to decide, is it going to be on this side or is it going to be on this side? I think I want mine over here on the right. And that's going to determine too if you want your small flaps on the bottom, your large flaps on the top, or the other way around. My flaps are overlapping just ever so slightly. I think I must have changed my measurement on one of them. Okay. But that's okay. So I'm just going to take glue on my last tab here. I'm going to center this up between the 2 score lines, which you should be able to easily find because you folded those. And we're just going to put our clips back on, only now our piece is glued on the inside of our book. Okay, so these, just need to double check where they're actually sitting. Looks like I'm off by about 1/8 of an inch, which makes sense because I did actually end up, apparently I did not. So now those should just nest right up against each other. So we would go ahead and glue this one down. I'm actually going to clean that up a little bit because it's not quite as even as I would like, but that's okay. You're going to glue that down, and then you're going to fold back, push back against that second score line to get your closure. Okay. And again, this is where you can decide if you want to do a magnetic closure on this, if you want to do a ribbon closure on this, it's up to you. The only other thing you need to decide is this going permanently in your book so that you're gluing the back of it down right where it is? Because I have 2 other options for you, and that is not correct. One of them is we can build a hinge that we would put on the back of this, so this would actually, the whole thing would actually fold, okay? Would fold out. Or you could put a couple of magnets on the back of this so that the whole thing could pop out of your book. It's up to you if you want to leave it, or for that matter, you could actually just run tape around 3 sides and make this a big pocket. And I think that's what I'm actually going to do. But I don't want to put this down yet because I want to be able to mat this back before I put this down. Okay, so again, I'm going to set this aside with our pocket. and get ready for the next piece. Okay, so I've gone ahead and just kind of clipped stuff in here where it needs to go. So for our wallet, like I said, you got a couple of options here. You can just permanently attach it down and be done with it. You can put magnets on the back side of this and on here so you could remove the whole thing, or you can put it on a tab so it folds to the side, and that's what we're going to do. So for that tab, you need a piece of cardstock that is 2.5 by 9 3/4. Actually, just a hair under 9 3/4 so it doesn't stick up on the top or bottom. With the 2.5 inch side on the top of your scoreboard, you're going to score at 1 inch. And you're going to score at 1.5 inches. Okay. Now, you want to fold and work this hinge a little bit because it needs to be able to fold either direction. Okay. So I'm going to grab my little wallet, make sure I've got my top where I want my top. Okay. The flap is going to, I'm sorry, not the flap, the tab needs to attach to the right hand side. So I'm going to turn this over. And I'm going to put glue, sorry, excuse me, not tape, glue, maybe, on this 1 inch tab. Okay. And I'm going to put that on the back. You want it all the way to the edge on the back of your wallet. Okay. Now you've got that little 1/2 inch score that's in between there. Okay. And apparently I have stuff that's not stuck. Because this is just not my night tonight. I'm telling you, I should not be doing this today. Okay. So let me grab the book. What you're going to do is you've got stuff that just does not want to stick down tonight. Oh my God, seriously. Okay, so you've got your tab, and you've got that little 1/2 inch gusset, essentially. You want that folded flat against the back of your wallet. We're going to put glue from this score line out. You don't want anything on that 1/2 inch. Okay. Because what this is going to do is allow the, did I do it wrong? No, yes, I did. Oh well, that's okay. I did turn it wrong. That's okay. What that's going to do is it's going to allow this to fold flat. Okay. So that part, that little 1/2 inch piece is not attached. So when you open this up, this will fold back completely flat. Okay. But when it's down, when it's closed, it will also sit perfectly flat when it's closed. Okay. So when you open it up, it just gives you that room, so it will fold out flat this way, but it will sit flat when it's down on the page. Okay. So let's talk about the tag flaps that we're going to put right here. I'm going to move this out of the way for just a minute. What you're going to cut is 3 pieces that are 8.5 by 7, and 3 pieces that are, if I can find my other piece here, 7 3/8 by 6 7/16. You don't have to get that exact. You just need it just short enough that it's not going to stick up on the back side of your pocket. Okay, so with the, let's start with our small ones. With the 6 and not quite 6.5 inch side at the top, you're going to score this at 1/2 inch. Okay, you're going to do that on all 3 of those pieces. And as you can see, one of them is already done. For your other piece, with the 7-inch, the other piece, like I said, is 8.5 by 7. With the 7-inch side at the top of the scoreboard, you're going to score this at 1 inch. You're then going to turn it and score it at 1/2 inch. Turn all the way around to the opposite side and 1/2 inch again. Okay, so again, 7-inch side at the top of the scoreboard, score it at 1 inch. Turn it so that your 8.5 is at the top. Score it 1/2 inch. Turn it all the way around. 8.5 at the top again. 1/2 inch. Okay. What you're going to do now is you're going to cut out this bottom corner. Okay. So on the side that has the 1/2 inch score, you're going to angle it just a tiny bit, just miter ever so slightly. On the side that has the 1 inch score, you're going to cut right along that score line. Okay. So again, miter ever so slightly, cut on the score line. All right, so what we're going to do now is you're going to fold in the 1/2 inch score on the smaller piece. Okay. We're going to put glue on that. And we're going to slide it down in between. And this is why, like I said, it has kind of an odd measurement. You just want to make sure that this is smaller than this pocket from this 1 inch score mark to the top, which is why I've got, like I said, 7/16, just about as close as you can get, about as much as I can, as close as I can get to giving you an exact measurement. I know what I'm trying to say. It's not coming out. All right, and then we're going to put glue on that tab and fold it over. Same thing on the other side. Over it goes. And then you've got your pocket, and this tab, this 1 inch tab, is what's going to go down in the book. So when it's in the book, it's going to fold all the way over. You're going to mat this so you're not going to see where you've got these tabs that are on the outside. Okay? So you can do this either way, because this thing is going to fold, flip up and down. Okay? So let's do our other two. So we're going to start, fold in our 1/2 inch and our 1/2 inch. So we have a guide. Take our smaller piece, fold our 1/2 inch on this, dry fit it to make sure that it's not running up against your score on the bottom of the pocket, because if it does, it's not going to fold correctly. And if you've cut it just slightly under, you shouldn't have any problems. So I'm just centering this up, aligning it at the top, and pushing it down. Glue on the side. And because you do have just a slight gap, you don't want to go all the way to your score line. But you do want enough that it's going to catch. Okay. And then you can just work that tab back and forth, get it good and loosened up so that this will flip the way we want it to flip. One last time, we're going to fold our pieces up and up. We're going to fold this one down. Dry fit just to make sure I didn't get it too big. That one looks good. And then we're just going to line him up. And get that down. And then put our sides down. Okay, and then again, we're just gonna work that tab so that this will fold the way we want it to fold. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab this again, and then these are just gonna go in here like so. They should fit, assuming we did not get this pocket too far out of whack, or this part too far out of whack. There we go. This should fit in here just perfectly next to the wallet, and it looks like when I put the tab on this, I made it just a little bit too far over, so I'll have to pull that up and fix that, because it should fit in here perfectly. So again, we're just going to put glue on our tab. In fact, I would almost suggest doing, of course, this being, 2020 as I'm putting it, hindsight being 2020 as I'm putting this together, put this down after you've done these so that you can make sure it lines up the way you need it to. Okay. And these tabs, you're going to line up just like you do with a waterfall. So you're just going to line the bottom of the next one up where that tab ends. So, like so. Okay. Okay. Get that one down. And there you go. There is your tag pockets. And these are big enough you could put photo mats in here. You could just put loose pictures in here. You can do that however you would like to do that. Like I said, I went too far over from my score line there, just literally just a hair. So I am going to actually end up pulling this off and fixing it, but that's okay. So that being said, now we need to decide if you're going to do a large flap that comes down over the top, or if you're going to do one that comes in from the side. I'm kind of leaning towards from the top, because then we have all of these things that fold down. You're going to have your big flap that's going to fold up that way, and then you've got all of this space under here that you can put just some photo mats. You could put another pocket of some kind if you wanted to. You've got a lot of options as far as what you're going to put underneath there. We don't want the flap to cover this. We just want it to come over this center section. So we're going to go ahead and measure this and see where we ended up. So we are at 7.5. So I'm going to grab another sheet of my cardstock. I'm going to cut it to 7.5. All right. I'm going to grab my scoreboard. Actually, I don't want my scoreboard just yet. And then we're going to cut this to 11 3/8. Okay. Now we want the scoreboard. So with the long side at the top, we're going to score this at 1 inch, and then 1 3/8. Okay. If you wanted this to be a little bit shorter, you absolutely could do it shorter. At this measurement, this is going to come from the top all the way down. Then we can decorate this however we want it to. We could add pockets. We could add a big photo frame with an acetate front with a mat that you could pull out. Really, you can do that however you want to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to lay this over the front of these, line it up side by side, or side to side, not side by side, side to side. And there you go. There's your flap. This should be sitting flat, and it's not because... Okay, so apparently I put my edge of my book down on my mouse and cut off as I was talking about this. So all I've done with that flap is I've just glued that down. You could make this shorter so it ended, say, like right here, and then do a ribbon closure. You could do a magnetic closure, depending on what you put on this. You may not need to do anything. It may be heavy enough to just sit down all by itself. What would be really kind of cool, just because of the overall size, because it's good sized, would be to do like a big photo frame there with an insert that you could slide out to put, you know, a bigger like 5x7 or a crop down 8x10 right there. That would be really neat. So before I managed to turn off my video, this, when I had put it down on its flap so it would open, I was over almost 1/4 inch too far, and I didn't realize when I did it. I think it was because it wasn't sticking the way I wanted it to, and it slid. So what I did is actually just pulled that off, moved it over where it's supposed to be, and just glued it down. Quite honestly, that might be the easiest option, unless you wanted to do, like I was saying, magnets where you could just pull the whole thing out. But I really almost think I like it better glued down, even though I was doing that because I was tired of fighting with it. because then it does give you just, you know, a very dedicated space back here. You're not having like this weird longer section, I guess. So yeah, there's that. So, okay, so I'm partially matted. What we're going to do now is go ahead and cut the pockets and things that are going to go on this large flap. I'm not sure what I'm putting right here. I think it's either going to end up being just a small belly band or maybe just a big photo mat. I'm not really sure. And then we can talk about tags or photo mats to go in the pockets. What I ended up doing here is I did just put the belly band on the back of the flap that the waterfall sits on, and then I just cut a small booklet. This is 10 by 9 1/4 scored at 5 inches. That we could just go ahead and put just some basic photo mats in. This is the Cartabella dot paper. I can't remember what they call it. Oh, just dots. Okay. Cartabella dots, Country Craft Creations. It's really heavy. Just, it's really nice paper. And then I think I'm just going to put a couple of photo mats here. I might do cut aparts on a little flap, similar to what I did in the dinosaur book, just not with the, to keep the pattern paper intact, just because it would be kind of cute. So I think that's what I'm going to do back here. So let's go ahead and cut our pockets. So the pockets that are going on the back of the large flap, you need 2 pieces that are 8 1/4 by 5 1/2. We're going to score these at 1/2 inch. Turn. 1/2 inch. Turn. 1/2 inch on both of these. Okay. On the front, you're going to have one, and these aren't actually, I mean, they are kind of pockets. They're really, what we're going to do is cut a window in these and make these little photo frames. The first one is going to be 5 1/2 by 6. With the 6-inch side at the top of your board, you want to score it 1/2 inch. Turn. 1/2 inch again. Turn one last time, and 1/2 inch. So that the 6-inch side, so the 6-inch side has 2 scores. The other piece is going to be 5 by 8. And again, 8-inch side at the top. We're going to score it 1/2 inch, turn it, score it at 1/2 inch, turn it, and then 1/2 inch again. So both of those I am going to cut in a 1-inch or I'm going to go in an inch. I know what I'm trying to say. It's just not coming out right. And cut a window. So I'm going to turn this. I'm going to get it 1 inch. I'm going to set my blade at 1.5 inches. So this is 8. So we need to go over to 6.5. And you absolutely can draw the lines on there first and then cut it, because doing it without measuring them is a little scary. So on this one, I'm going to start at 6.5 and come back to 1.5. And see, this is not going to be a very big pocket on this one, and that's fine. And same thing on the other side. We're going to start 1.5. And the reason we're starting at the 1.5, 1.5, I know what I'm trying to say, is because we need 1 inch from our score line. Okay, so there's one window. For the other one, we're going to do the same thing. So this one's going to have a, so that's at 5.5, so I need to go to 4.5. Sorry, it just looked weird to me for some reason. Okay, and there's our other frame. So just normal pockets. We're going to put them down just like we always do. So I'm going to go ahead and miter the corners on both of those. I'm going to miter in just a little bit on the top. And then really, since we're going to put an insert into these two window pockets, you could leave them without acetate in there if you wanted to. I like my acetate, so I am going to put some acetate in there. For the acetate, I'm just going to cut it. So this is going to be, what is this across? So this is 7 inches across, so I would cut it, the acetate, to about 6.5 by, so it's 4.5 this way, 4.25, or even 4 for that matter. So probably actually 6 by 4, or 6.25 by 4. And I would put that down, and then I'll just mat over the top of it, because it is just a pocket. And then our other two pockets, I'm going to go ahead and just miter those corners. Oh, very cute. So my son is in here working on his own little book with me tonight. Yeah, you can say hi.
Hi. Cool, I can see the other.
Yes. And when I finish this up, then I think we're going to watch a movie if it's not super, super late, which it's 8 o'clock. It's not too bad. All right, yeah. So...
Usually day of this we stay up till like 10 or something.
Well, yeah, because it's a Friday. Okay, do your thing. All right, so these are going to go down like so. So this one is going to be a side load. This one's going to be a top load. And since they are essentially photo frames. Okay. Very cute. And then this one's just going to sit down here. All right. So that one's going to sit there. That one's going to sit here. I am going to mat this entire page with one of the patterns before I put these down. These two. Okay. That's fine, Nick. Okay. For the other pockets, they are just going to sit stacked on the back here. In fact, if you wanted to only do, well, no, I think I need both of them. Okay, so they're just going to stack on the back. And that'll be about it. I'll be back when I get this matted, and I'll give you a final walkthrough, and that'll be about it. Okay, so I've got the back matted, I've got the inside matted. I still need to decorate and do the front. For the front, you've got a couple of options because you do need some kind of closure on here. You could do ribbon, you could do a magnetic closure with, you know, that you could take a cut apart or something, or make a frame and put it in the center and put magnets in the back side. Really, it's up to you. I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing on that yet. I just know that that's the paper I'm matting it with. I just don't know how I'm doing a closure or what I'm doing on that yet. So I've left that for right now. So inside, everything is down. We've got our pocket here. We've got our 5x7 waterfall here. I did just do a couple of little just photo spots there with some of the 4x4 cut aparts. We do have just a small booklet on the under the belly band on the back of that. Really, you could just leave that as is and just, you know, put some picture mats under there. That would be really cute too. We've got our wallet. I did not matte the backs of these. I might go back with some of the solids that match this and do that. I've got a tuck spot right there, but that whole little thing is done, ready to go. For the pockets here, I did end up putting some acetate in there. And then you've just got an insert that pulls out and just is matted on the back, that you see through your little acetate windows there. When you flip that up, you've got, of course, two pockets here. And I will do some decorating on the front of this because it does kind of, it blends in too well. So I wanted the black backed firework paper on there. So that one, and I'm out of it. So I had to improvise. We've got our tag pockets here. And then we've got just space to put, you know, a big photo mat right here. You can do photo mats on the back of each one of these pockets. You can do them on the front of these pockets for that matter. And I did end up adding a magnet closure, although this is heavy enough by the time you get the pockets and everything on here. I don't know that you really need to. But there it is. So thanks for watching. If you end up making your own version of this, I would love to see it. Please share it in the Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations Facebook group, and also on my page, Scrapping Under the Influence on Facebook, or tag me on Instagram, again, Scrapping Under the Influence, and I'd love to see what you create. Thanks!